Today we are being joined by, of course, Joyce Marter. She is a friend of the Brain Injury Alliance of Arizona, having spoken at our 2020 Rays of Hope conference way back when, right? When it was,
Yes.
only a couple months into the pandemic of things. And then you have been a licensed therapist, psychotherapist for over 20 years, expert in mental health, mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and now the psychology of money. You're the founder of Urban Balance, and that is a practice that has over 175 therapists working in 20 different locations throughout several states. Also serve as an adjunct faculty member for the Family Institute of Northwestern University, as a member of the National Speaker Association. And of course, you yourself are just a national keynote speaker. Your book, The Financial Mindset Fix, which I know some of our participants have, the copy is still on its way. That was released in July, already generating a lot of buzz and positive momentum. So without further delay, I'm going to hand the meeting over to you, Ms. Joyce.
Thank you so much, Jen. And thank you to everyone for being with me today and for reading the book. I know some of you haven't received it yet, but I am excited and honored to be here and very grateful to the Brain Injury Alliance for all the important work that they do. And it's been my honor and pleasure to present for the Brain Injury Alliance a few different times. And as Kristen said, I have been a licensed therapist for now 25 years. And I absolutely love being a counselor. I find it emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually rewarding. It has been such a deep privilege to get to know so many people so intimately and to support them in their recovery and healing and helping them thrive and prosper and blossom in their lives. I believe I'm a strong mental health advocate, and I believe that we all have mental health issues, just like we have physical health issues. And obviously, the Brain Injury Alliance understands the mind-body connection. And I remember when I was in graduate school, I was really afraid that my professors were going to see that I deal with an anxiety disorder and that they were going to say, you can't be a therapist because you have issues. But guess what? I think we all have issues as part of the human condition, and no shame, no stigma. We all have mental health just like we have physical health. And it's a normal response to our genetics and our life experiences. Obviously, brain injury can impact mental health issues in a very serious way, or if you're a caregiver, that impacts you in a very big way in terms of your daily life. And so I am impassioned about removing the shame and stigma and providing people with tools to live a better life. And it has been such a joy to help so many people. And I now am really enjoying sharing what I've learned through counseling so many clients over so many years through my speaking and writing. And so this book feels like my baby. I actually do have 4 kids. I'm part of a blended family. I live in the Chicago area in Evanston. And I have 2 daughters, ages 16 and 19, and 2 stepchildren, ages 22 and 25. And they're extremely delightful human beings, very kind and gracious, and perhaps a little even nicer than my own children. But anyway, I am a big believer in work-life balance. I named my practice Urban Balance because I think that we live in a culture where many of us are overworked, whether it's as a caregiver or professionally, and many people are exhausted and depleted. And as Kristen mentioned, we're living through the pandemic, and the pandemic is a global trauma. So it's been extremely stressful on a mental health level for most of us, I think. And I think most of us are dealing with some level of burnout. And so my book, I really hope that it's going to help people recover both emotionally and financially from some of the impact of the pandemic. I definitely believe in divine timing, and I think this book is coming out at a time when the world really needs it. I've been working on this book for 10 years, which is why I call it my baby. I first started talking about the principles in the book in a talk called The Psychology of Success about 11 years ago. And I started giving it for small businesses in Chicago, and then for groups of therapists, and then for Fortune 500 companies, and then as a national keynote. And basically, I share in the talk, The Psychology of Success, 12 mindsets that I've identified that lead to holistic success. So holistic success, I believe, is having mental health, financial health, supported relationships, work-life balance, and financial prosperity. And I want to be really clear that when I'm talking about finances, I am not talking about materialism or greed or selfishness. I'm talking about financial health and wellness. Right now, we are living at a time where many people are dealing with financial trauma. So maybe because of unemployment or businesses closing, job losses, et cetera. Many family members are living together, and that causes relationship conflict sometimes and difficulties. And so the book is about basically creating your financial health. And it doesn't matter what age you are. It's never too late. You can always improve your life and welcome a life of abundance. And that is my true wish and desire for you. I'm super passionate about this work. I went through a long journey with writing the book where it was rejected a number of times by a number of different publishers. And I think that was because I hadn't learned what I needed to learn yet. And Kristen shared that I started a business here in Chicago called Urban Balance. And what Urban Balance is it's an insurance-friendly counseling practice. So I saw as a therapist that, I think all of us can benefit from therapy and counseling at different points in our lives. And for many of us, it's not affordable or accessible because many therapists charge out of pocket and it's expensive. And so I started an insurance-friendly counseling practice that takes all insurance and is in network with every plan to make therapy accessible and affordable for people. And it grew tremendously. So I started at one therapist at a time, but as it grew, I learned a couple of things. One of them was I ended up getting in cash flow hell. So what I mean by that is the bigger the business got, because we accepted insurance, the more money was outstanding in insurance. And we ended up not having enough cash to pay payroll and pay our rent. And it was massively stressful. I couldn't sleep at night. I had anxiety attacks. I was so worried about my staff and clients and the business. And I actually had a business partner at that time who was one of my best friends. And she left the business because of our cash problems. And it was a devastating time in my life. I thought that I was going to have to file bankruptcy. It was really, really scary. And I decided to care about myself and care about the business enough to enact powerful change. And I used lessons that I learned in my clinical practice to help save my business and transform my life. And this was 2011 that my business partner left. In 2017, I was able to sell the business that I started with $500 and $50,000 of student loans when it was grossing over $5 million a year. I never in a million years would have imagined that I would have had that kind of financial prosperity and abundance. And I believe that when we have more, we can help more. We can be of service to others. We can give to charities. We can be philanthropists. We can volunteer. And we can provide jobs for others. So this is not about selfishness or greed. It's about being of service to others. And so I became really interested in my practice about the psychology of money. Early on in my practice, I noticed something really interesting. that as my clients started to make progress in therapy, they started to make more money. And I was like, why is this happening? I don't understand. And we're not even talking about money. They're coming in for depression or anxiety or trauma or addiction. But it was because in counseling, we're always working on underlying self-esteem and self-worth. And so as my clients started to feel better about themselves and get aligned with who they really are and their unique gifts and talents in the world, they started to put themselves out in the world with more confidence and more assertiveness and healthier boundaries in their relationships. And then they learned how to advocate for themselves and negotiate. So those are the skills that I really practiced when I was trying to save my business and frankly, my life in some ways. And my life looks radically different today. I feel like I have a much more supported life. And that is my hope and intention for every person who reads this book. And so what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, I'd like to read a little section of my book to you. And then we're going to dive into one of the wheel exercises, because the book every chapter has a wheel exercise in it. And I want to explain how those work because I don't want you to skip them because they're really, really important. So I am going to share with you a little bit of the introduction of the support chapter. And the reason that I'm choosing the support chapter is because with BIAS, you are likely either a caretaker or you've had people take care of you, you're a survivor. We all take care of each other and in different ways, and so support is one of the mindsets that I have identified that leads to a life of mental well-being. So again, the book each chapter is 12 different mindsets, and this is chapter 7, I believe, which is on support. So I'm going to share this with you. So the title of this chapter is Appreciate that Giving and Receiving are two sides of the same coin. And Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. Like many women, I defined my worth by how much I could give others. I was taught to be a good girl and not an imposition, so I didn't really ask for much in relationships. This was no longer sustainable when I became a mother. I need more support, I said to my then husband a month after our first child was born. 1 month later, after nothing changed, I herniated a disc in my spine while putting Celeste in the crib. My back giving out was a physical manifestation of my unsupported life. Sciatic nerve pain screamed down my leg for 6 months until I made some important shifts in my life. Accessing good healthcare providers like a chiropractor and acupuncturist were instrumental in getting me back on my feet. I joined some new mom groups that reached out to my girlfriends, learning to better balance giving support with receiving support. I continued to ask my husband for what I needed, and if those needs weren't met, like help with the laundry or errands, I hired someone to help as possible. In my professional and financial life, it has taken a village of support to get me to where I am today. My supportive sister, Teresa, encouraged me to apply to Northwestern University. I told her I would never be accepted to such a prestigious school, but I applied anyway. In a strange twist of fate, Northwestern was the only graduate program to accept me. Thank you to Teresa, and take that, University of Akron. After a depressing job interview at a nursing home for the chronically mentally ill, where a resident smashed a handful of Cheetos on my black suit, I called Teresa crying. I felt destined to stay a waitress buried in student loans. She showed up at my apartment with a bouquet of tulips and a bag of Cheetos. She pulled out the yellow pages, found a counseling center just 2 blocks away, and encouraged me to contact them. I was immediately hired part-time, giving me my start in private practice. Teresa's support radically improved the trajectory of my career and life. It was at that group practice that I met my mentor, Mark, who's been my professional consultant throughout my career and has become like a family member. When I first started my own practice, I told Mark I wasn't going to bill insurance because it was too complicated. He replied with some tough love and said flatly, "Yeah, you are." He taught me everything I needed to know about working with insurance, which became central to my work with Urban Balance. Years later, after my business partner left, I've moved past the barriers of shame, pride, and guilt to receive more support for my business and finances. By asking for support, our revenue increased 20 to 30% per year, and we opened new offices and increased our staff to an army of over 100 therapists. It took a village, and I realized I had that village available. It took a village, and I realized I had that village available to me all along. Because I provided jobs, internships, mentoring, and more, the support came back to me threefold once I was open to receiving. I no longer felt alone in the responsibility of the company's success. In my new marriage to my husband, Jason, whose kind and gentle ways of being have soothed my soul, I've learned how to be more open to receiving. In the first few years of our relationship, I found it almost painful to receive support. Eventually, I realized I had never had that kind of support, even earlier in my life. Learning how to receive support has allowed me to come into a space of feeling loved, safe, and connected. This has gifted me with so many blessings, including more bandwidth for patience and kindness as a parent, friend, and colleague. My life is now a supported life of ongoing growth and evolution. I balance my love of giving and building others up with allowing the love, support, and prosperity to flow back into me. Thank you. I just wanted to share that with you because I want you to have the support that you need and deserve. And so each chapter of my book I mentioned is one of the 12 mindsets that I identified that lead to improved mental wellness and also financial well-being. I hired a PhD researcher, Simon Golden, who helped me do the research for the book. And he found that these 12 mindsets actually are empirically proven to improve your mental health and financial health. So accessing support improves your mental well-being and your financial health. And so some of the other really important chapters, of course, they're all important, but I think especially for this group, I'm imagining that the self-love chapter is also a really important chapter where I talk about self-care. Because I know for myself, for a lot of my life, I put my own self-care last until I was exhausted and depleted and burnt out. And so I had to learn how to change that. And so each chapter of my book has exercises in it. And these exercises are kind of like, the book's called a mental fitness program. They're like physical fitness exercises. And just like you couldn't listen to your trainer and not do any of the exercises and expect to see results, you're going to have to do these exercises if you want to receive the great benefits of this program. So I want to share with you one of the wheel exercises. And before I do that, if you would give me just a moment here, and I'm going to, I should have pulled this up earlier, but I know you'll be patient with me and I'll pull it up here quickly. My apologies. I did the audio book for my book and I had to say the exercise page so many times. So every time there was an exercise, I would say, you can find the exercises at financialmindsetfix.com/exercises. So that's what I'm going to write in the chat for you so that you can go to this page. So basically I have a landing page on my website that has all of the exercises in it so that you can download them and you can share them with others. So let's see if that works. But I do want to share with you the financial health wheel, and I'm going to share with you how to go through it. One moment here. So on that landing page that Kristen shared, there's a video of me that explains how to do these wheels. So if you forget, you can watch that video again. And on that landing page, again, you can pull up all of these exercises and you can do them digitally if you use software like Adobe or PDF Filler, or you can print them out, or you could even write on the book and complete them there, whichever works best for you, or you could write it out in a journal. So Kristen, if you would scroll, it's a couple pages in, I would like you to go to the blank wheel, not that one, this one, perfect. So this is the financial health wheel. And each spoke of the wheel is a different aspect of your financial health. So if you look at around the wheel, and my apologies if the font looks kind of small for you, you can pull out the attachment that Kristen sent to you as well, if that shows up better for you. But at the top spoke is own your worth. And then next to that is budget, and then timely bill pay, spending within your means, knowing your net worth, treating yourself within your means, having financial planning, regularly checking in with financial consultants or advisors, giving to charity if you can. And I talk about if you don't have money, you can volunteer, but being of service improves your mental and financial well-being, negotiating, risk tolerance, and save and invest. So on the handout, I explain what each of these means. And each of these skills is more deeply explained in each of the chapters of the book. So own your worth is explained in the self-love chapter. So I really believe that when we value ourselves and know that we are deserving of prosperity, I believe we are all innately deserving of prosperity, but we sometimes have earlier life messages or cultural messages about what money means, like that, rich people are greedy or money is the root of all evil. And sometimes those negative belief systems actually push money away. So something interesting that I noticed in my practice, and I share this in the first chapter of the book, was that when I first started my private practice, I met with my friend Steve, and he said, "How much money do you want to make?" And I had struggled as a starting therapist in Chicago because I'd taken $50,000 of student loans, and the first starting salary that I had was $25,000 a year, which is really difficult to live on in the Chicago area. And so I worked really hard at trying to improve my financial wellness, but I was not doing super well. So I started a private practice, and my friend Steve did as well. And we met for coffee, and Steve said, "Joyce, how much money do you want to make?" And I said, "Well, I would really love to make $60,000 a year. That would I'd be able to pay my mortgage and start a family." And he said, 60? He said, "I want to make over 100. And I said, "Well, do you think that's possible?" And he said, "Of course that's possible." And that year I made 60 and Steve made over 100. And I thought, oh my goodness, am I somehow setting my own ceilings with small thinking and self-limiting beliefs? And so with my clients and in my own journey, I work at helping us realize when we're doing that, when we're self-sabotaging and we're setting our own limits. And so I really love, one of my favorite things about being a therapist is mirroring back to my clients everything that's beautiful and amazing and special about them, and helping them align their unique gifts with a need in the world to the greatest extent possible. And so owning your worth is not a narcissistic thing. It's not an ego thing. It's having healthy self-esteem. It's healthy self-worth. It's not about being better than anyone else. I think of course, we're all equal. We are maybe just on different trajectories in our learning and in our life. So Kristen, if you would go to the wheel that you were at previously that shows you with the little squiggly lines, what it looks like when you complete it. Basically, you would go around each spoke and you would put a dot on the spoke according to how well you're doing in each area. So this person put a dot toward the outside of the wheel, meaning that they're feeling like they're doing well with owning their worth. They're prosperous in that area. If they were doing poorly in an area like this one, it looks like they're doing poorly with saving and investing, it would go more closer to the inside of the wheel. So again, there's definitions for each of these categories, and then you rate yourself, you go around the wheel and connect the dots. And in a perfect world, we'd all have nice, big, round wheels, financial health wheels. But because we're human and none of us is perfect and we're all works in progress, we have some dents in our wheels. And so these wheel exercises are to help you identify your areas of strength and your areas of needed attention. And then in the book, I have all of these proven exercises from psychology to help you improve in those areas. So managing money is not rocket science, right? Like we all know we need to have more coming in than we do going out, and we need to save and invest. But it's our psychology that makes it different or difficult. And so that's why me as a therapist, I am talking about the psychology of money to help you improve your financial health. So that is one of the wheel exercises. Kristen, if you could go ahead and discontinue sharing that, that would be great. And then I am going to share briefly this presentation. And I'm just going to talk for a few more minutes, and then I'm going to take some questions from you all. All right, so I've sort of explained to you that I believe that there's a connection between self-worth and net worth. And the better we feel about ourselves, that creates our financial reality. And interestingly, Susie Orman, the financial expert, said the same thing. She noticed in her financial practice that self-worth leads to net worth. But she said net worth does not lead to self-worth, because we all know people who have gobs of money who are unhappy and miserable. So self-worth comes from the inside. And so this program is really to help you live a greater life. So I do share some resources. This is a QR code. And Kristen, maybe if you would pull up the landing page and then share it in the chat. But just like if you're in a restaurant, you could hold your phone up to this QR code and it would bring you to a landing page. Otherwise, Kristen's going to actually put that in the chat. And you'll have some copies of these slides and some of the individual wheel exercises that you can pull up and print out. So just some free little extras for you all. So there we go with that. And then I am excited, Kristen mentioned that the book came out just not even a month ago, and it's going to be in Forbes for the third time in a couple of weeks. So I've had a tremendous amount of press, everything from Forbes to Business Insider to Us Weekly and Star Magazine and the Inquirer. All the tabloid magazines picked it for summer reading, which is really cool, because I hope this book helps everyone. That's my intention. I think everyone can benefit from it. So this was a quote for Real Simple magazine, and I said, "We are not our bank account. We are not our debt. That is how we are. That's not who we are." So I know sometimes people deal with crippling financial anxiety and shame. And so in order to recover from that, we have to learn how to separate from that, and realize that we are not our bank account. We are our own unique light and our own unique person and our own unique spirit, and that is our value. And the money piece is a separate piece. And it is temporary. If you have financial problems, it is something that can be fixed. Something that is very disturbing to me is that 16% of suicides are financially driven. And suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in our country. And so I really hope this book helps give people hope that, you are always valuable. And there are ways that you can recover your financial health and your mental health. So I would say you have to care enough about yourself to welcome the life you deserve. And it truly starts with you. You are the gatekeeper between you and the life you deserve. A lot of us spend a lot of time, and I did it myself. First time I was in therapy, my mother starred in every session. And then the next time I was in therapy, I talked a lot about my ex-husband. And it wasn't until I started looking at myself and taking responsibility for my life that my life began to change. And so we have to do that work for ourselves in order to create positive change in our lives. So many of us deal in our works with imposter syndrome or perfectionism, and these are aspects of ego. We all have egos as part of the human condition. It's our mind's understanding of ourselves, and that's how we operate in the world. But if you believe in the mind, body, spirit connection, our spirit is our essence. And so part of being successful in life is learning how to detach from your ego and connect with that deeper self, align with your purpose, and recognize that imposter syndrome and perfectionism are things, like when I first went to graduate school at Northwestern, I swear to you, I thought they were going to tell me, like, what are you doing here? Why did you come here from Ohio? It was a mistake. You weren't accepted here, because I had imposter syndrome. And perfectionism, I notice a lot of my clients have a book in them, or artwork, or a screenplay, or a business idea, and they haven't put it out in the world because they're waiting for it to be perfect because they don't want to be criticized. And so we have to dial that down so that we can put ourselves out there in the world and welcome a greater life. And again, it's not about being selfish. When you have more, you can help more. And that's something that I have found amazingly beneficial and powerful. So I always say healthy self-esteem is midway between diva and doormat, and dudes can be divas too. So divas are people who are kind of grandiose and they're entitled, and they might live beyond their means financially. And doormats are people who don't take care of themselves. Caregivers tend to be kind of on the doormat side of things, myself included. And so we've got to find that healthy balance where we respect ourselves and we respect other people, and we communicate in a way that is assertive and clear with clear boundaries. And that is healthy self-esteem. So in my book, I explain how to do that in your relationships. And again, the big theme is that we are always deserving, that we're always enough, because we all have that inner critic in our head that tells us somehow we're not enough. We don't look right. We're not smart enough. We're not good enough. We're not deserving. And that is what prevents us from having more. It truly is. And so we have to do that deeper work to recognize that we have a choice. We can be our worst critic, or we can be our own loving parent and take care of ourselves as we would someone we love very, very much. Sometimes I ask myself, would I feed my daughters what I ate yesterday, for example? And if the answer is no, like, what's up with that, right? Like, I should be taking care of myself the way I would somebody I love very much. And so we have to learn how to do that. We have to learn how to be our own best friend and our own compassionate advocate. This is another wheel exercise that's in the book, and it's the self-love wheel. And it has some spokes on your physical health, like making sure you're exercising, getting enough sleep, hydration, moderating substances. And then it has psychological aspects of self-care, like, are you practicing self-forgiveness? Are you practicing self-compassion? Are you practicing self-affirmation? And then it has some lifestyle things, like, are you unplugging from technology? Are you taking time for leisure and hobbies? Are you taking time for solitude? Taking yourself to your own doctor's appointments? Have you had all of your checkups and things like that? So this self-love exercise I have found to be really powerful for people. And I've given this in my speaking engagements. I've given it to my clients, and people are often pretty surprised at how they've been neglecting themselves, because we don't really have a tool to measure this until now. So I encourage you to do that. So we talked already about the psychology of money. So the book really helps you emancipate yourself from self-limitation and to harness the power of intention. So whatever your intention is, and if you have an intention to use your gifts to be of service in the world, I believe the universe is going to support that if your intention benefits yourself and others. So the book will also, oh, I'm sorry, this slide got kind of messed up, but the book will also help you with your emotions around money. So moving from inadequacy to worth, disempowerment to empowerment, hopelessness to hopeful, from fear to feeling confident and having peace. So it's going to help you with the emotions around money, and it's going to help you come out of financial denial. I think we all have denial as part of the human condition, and help you with financial literacy. So that's simply knowing how to manage your finances. I'm going to help you improve your relationship with finances. I share in the book that I was thinking about, if my money were a person and I had a relationship with that person, what would that be like? And so I realized that in the years where my business was really struggling, my financial life would have been named Penny. And I neglected her. I didn't take care of her. I didn't introduce her to anyone. I was ashamed of her. And I expected her to produce without ever nurturing her. And she was exhausted and burnt out. And today I call my financial life prosperity. And I care about her. And I understand that she is a reflection of myself. My stepdaughter was cute. She said she's listening to the audiobook. And she said, I named my financial life. His name is Jeffrey. And he's a little sketchy and a little scammy and a little, what did she say? Scummy. He's basically got some work to do. So she was excited about the book. She's a starving artist. And I help people move from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. So a scarcity mindset is what we saw with the toilet paper thing, with the pandemic. It's this idea that there's not enough for all of us and we have to be competitive with others. And I don't believe that. I believe there's more than enough resources for all of us, and that us having more doesn't mean someone else is going to have less. So I can explain that more. There's that financial health wheel that we just walked through. And you have to believe it's possible. So a lot of my clients will say things like, I can't do that. That would never work for me. And you have to believe it's possible. There was one time I gave a talk in Nebraska, and I remember an older woman came up to me after the talk, and she said, kind of dismally, she goes, gosh, I wish I heard your talk 40 years ago. My life would have been entirely different. And she just seemed kind of defeated and sad. And a few minutes later, a woman who was 5 years older than her came up to me excitedly and said, I'm 75 and I'm retiring, and I am going to use your book to create the best life I can for the next chapter of my life. And I thought, wow, who's going to have a more successful next chapter of their life? Do you think we have to believe it's possible? So I skipped over that because I do want to hear from your questions. But so I want to help you develop mental resilience and financial resilience, so that when we go through hard times like the pandemic, or with your loved ones, or with brain injury, that you have the capacity to move through those challenges and to bounce back, and that you can stay healthy and well throughout those experiences. I do believe, I read to you about support, and I do believe we all need support, and we all need financial support, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You can talk to someone at your bank, you can talk to someone at your credit union. Consumer Credit Counseling Services offers free budgeting help and debt consolidation help. There's even 12-step support groups that are free and online for various issues related to money. I have a friend who works the Debtors Anonymous program and also the Under Earners Anonymous program, and it's really, really helpful. So this support wheel, basically, each spoke of the wheel is a different aspect of support, and then you would write the names of the people who provide you with that support. And I tell you, I've been giving presentations about 3 times a week across the country during the pandemic, and most people are saying that they're in the greatest need of emotional support. So if you are in need of emotional support, start asking the people in your life for what you need. Transcend those barriers and ask them for what it is that you need. I know that can be hard and uncomfortable, but it is absolutely essential for your well-being. And also, I'm a therapist. I think we all need a therapist at different points in our lives. I don't know, my life would not look the way it does now if I didn't have therapy. And so teletherapy is being covered by insurance now. So if that's not something that you have done before, definitely consider it, because it can help you in so many different ways. For those of you who are working outside of the home, I have a professional satisfaction wheel, and I also have some tips on negotiation in the book. But again, here are the 12 chapters. So you can see what the 12 mindsets are that I believe lead to holistic success. So we have self-love, compassion, presence, abundance, vision, awareness, essence, responsibility, support, resilience, and positivity. And this is my definition of success. I believe success is to live openly, authentically, and lovingly in alignment with the highest good of self and others, and to the greatest extent possible. The book I mentioned has been in Forbes and some other articles, and I welcome all of you to connect with me on social media. There's my email if you want to send me an email. If you have a question you don't feel comfortable asking in front of the group, you can definitely contact me, and feel free to ask me questions. I really appreciate you having interest in the book and in my work.